You think you're buying fuel, but you're actually paying a premium to burn rock dust in your backyard. And the industry is counting on you never checking the fine print. If you audit the safety data sheet for the blue bag sitting in your garage, the legal document the industry is required to provide to industrial handlers, you won't find a recipe for fire. You'll find a bill of materials designed by a portfolio manager to maximize quarterly margins. Limestone, borax, fossil coal dust. In materials science, we call this thermal dead weight. The construction tells the truth, the logo tells a story. And the story you've been sold is that all charcoal is charcoal. It's a lie. 90% of Americans are using the wrong fuel for the job because they've been conditioned to accept industrial waste as a standard. Today, we are stripping away the lifestyle branding to expose the corporate formula. I'm going to show you exactly why you need to stop burning the company's waste so you can finally hit the 1200-degree threshold. If you want to stop being a customer and start being a smart buyer, you need to see the evidence. Most people treat charcoal like a commodity. It's the most invisible part of the barbecue process. You go to the store, you see the blue bag, you buy the blue bag. You use it for a 12-hour brisket, and you use it for a $60 ribeye. It's a habit, a generational loop. We do it because our fathers did it, and their fathers did it. But in the world of thermal energy, there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all fuel. Why hasn't the industry told you that? Why is the distinction between lump charcoal and briquettes treated like some guarded trade secret? Because the moment you understand the chemistry of your fuel, the biggest players in the market lose their grip on your wallet. See, the tradition you've been following isn't a culinary choice. It's a manufacturing solution from 1920 that was never meant to be optimized for flavor. It was meant to be optimized for waste reduction. It was a way to turn trash into cash. And we've been buying that trash for a century. If you want to stop being a customer and start being a smart buyer, you have to stop looking at the logo and start looking at the carbon. You have to understand that the heat you're producing isn't just hot. It's either pure, concentrated energy, or it's a diluted chemical soup that's fighting against your meat. By the end of this, you'll never look at a grocery store charcoal aisle the same way again. To understand why your grill is underperforming, we have to go back to the early 1900s. We have to talk about Henry Ford. Yes, the car guy. Back in the 1920s, Ford had a problem that had nothing to do with engines.
He had massive amounts of sawmill scraps, thousands of tons of useless wood shards, left over from the production of Model T frames. He didn't want to pay to haul the waste away, and he certainly didn't want to just burn it in a pile. So he built a factory to convert those scraps into charcoal. But here was the catch. Raw charcoal is irregular. It's jagged, it's messy, it doesn't stack well on a pallet, and it's a nightmare to ship in bulk. So he did what any industrialist would do to maximize efficiency. He ground the charcoal into a fine powder, mixed it with chemical binders, and pressed it into a uniform, pillow-shaped briquette. The briquette was never designed to be the best way to cook. It was designed to be the easiest way to ship. And that is the original sin of American barbecue. Over the next century, the giants of the industry didn't win the market because they had the best thermal performance. They won because they had the best distribution. They owned the shelves. They owned the logistics. They made the blue bag the default setting for the American backyard. They convinced us that the uniformity was a feature, not a byproduct of industrial waste management. And once you own 80% of the market, you don't need to innovate. You just need to maintain the margin. This is where the corporate formula enters the chat. When you hold a standard briquette, you aren't holding a piece of wood. You're holding a chemical compound. Why the limestone? Why the borax? Because pure hardwood charcoal doesn't always give the amateur user a clear visual signal of when it's ready. The industry solved this by engineering a visual marketing cue. The limestone creates that iconic, bright white ash. It's a psychological trick. The ash tells you it's time to cook, but the limestone itself does absolutely nothing to heat your food. In fact, it does the opposite. Limestone is a mineral. It doesn't burn. It just sits there. It absorbs energy. It is literally dead weight in your firebox. Imagine trying to run a race while wearing a backpack full of rocks. That is what your fire is doing. You are paying for fillers that act as a heat sink, dragging down your peak temperatures and clogging your airflow with a thick, suffocating layer of mineral waste. You aren't just burning charcoal, you're burning a cost-saving measure. Now, let's look at the alternative, lump charcoal. This is the real deal. This is what happens when you take massive hardwood logs and bake them in a low-oxygen environment, a process called pyrolysis, until every single volatile compound and every single drop of moisture is purged. What's left isn't a pill, it's almost pure carbon. When I talk to the smart buyers, we don't talk about bags, we talk about carbon percentage. Quality lump, the stuff from Fogo or Jealous Devil, runs between 75 and 90% pure carbon.
Everything in that bag is combustible. There is no limestone to soak up the heat. There is no borax to mess with the chemistry. When you light a chimney of premium lump, you aren't just making a fire. You're creating a thermal engine. I've seen surface temperatures on lump charcoal hit 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Think about that. A standard briquette struggles to break 800. We are talking about a difference of 600 degrees. That is the difference between a lukewarm bath and a blast furnace. This is why lump lights in 10 minutes while briquettes take 25. The irregular shapes, the very things that make the industry hate them because they're hard to package, are actually a massive tactical advantage. Those jagged edges and random gaps create natural air channels. They allow oxygen to flood the core of the fire, accelerating the ignition and creating a radiant, intense heat that you can feel in your chest from 3 feet away. And then there is the aftermath. This is what I call the metric of truth. After a full burn, pure lump leaves behind about 2 to 5% ash. That's just the natural mineral content of the wood. Nothing was added, so nothing remains. Compare that to the 21% ash residue of the corporate briquette. In a 10-pound cook, you're literally hauling away 2 pounds of limestone waste. It's inefficient, it's messy, and frankly, it's a scam. You're cleaning up the company's waste so they can keep their margins high. This is where the data becomes dinner. Let's talk about the Maillard reaction. For the uninitiated, the Maillard reaction is the chemical dance between amino acids and reducing sugars. It's what happens when heat transforms the surface of your meat into a complex array of flavors. It is the difference between a gray steak and a crusted steak. But here is the secret the industry hides. The Maillard reaction accelerates dramatically once you cross the 750-degree threshold. If you are using standard briquettes, you are peaking at 600 to 800 degrees. You can get a crust, sure, but you have to leave the meat on the grill longer to get it. You are trading internal doneness for external color. You're risking an overcooked, rubbery, medium-well interior just to get a decent sear. That is an unacceptable trade-off for a $60 piece of meat. You are fighting your fuel instead of using it. Now imagine that same steak over 1,200-degree lump charcoal. The sear happens in 60 to 90 seconds. The heat is so intense that it flash caramelizes the surface, locking in the juices and creating a professional steakhouse crust without ever touching the internal temperature. You get a perfect edge-to-edge medium-rare interior with a crust that looks like it was forged in a volcano. The buyer, who has been searing over Kingsford their entire life, hasn't just been using the wrong charcoal. They have literally never experienced what their grill is actually capable of. They've been driving a Ferrari in second gear and wondering why it feels slow. The tool is the problem. When you switch to lump, you aren't just changing the fuel, you're upgrading the entire culinary experience. You're finally hitting the temperature where the magic happens. Now, I don't want you to think I'm just a lump charcoal fanboy. Because if you try to cook a 12-hour brisket over lump, you are going to have a very bad day. Lump is an athlete. It's high energy and erratic. It burns hot, it burns fast, and it burns unevenly. In a long-haul cook, that inconsistency is your enemy. You'll get temperature spikes that sear your bark too early, followed by sudden crashes that leave you fighting the firebox for 3 hours, sweating and swearing in your backyard. This is where the briquette, the right briquette, actually wins. When you need stability, you need uniformity. You need every single piece of fuel to ignite and exhaust at the exact same rate. This is why the minion method works so well with briquettes. You pack the smoker with unlit coals, light a small pile on top, and let the fire migrate downward like a slow-burning fuse. It is predictable. It is boring. And in a 12-hour smoke, boring is beautiful. But, and this is a big but, you still shouldn't be using the corporate formula. You don't need limestone and fossil coal for a brisket. You don't need rock dust in your smoker. You need hardwood char with a clean binder. The smart buyer looks for brands like B&B, Weber, or Kingsford's competition line. These are formulated without the industrial fillers. They give you the predictable, long-burning stability of a briquette without the chemical baggage of the budget bag. The consistency that makes them a failure for searing makes them a masterpiece for smoking. It's not about which charcoal is better in a vacuum. It's about matching the fuel to the application. If you use lump for a brisket, you're fighting the fire. If you use briquettes for a steak, you're fighting the clock. Stop fighting your equipment and start choosing the right tool for the job. So why is the market still dominated by the low-spec stuff? Why is the rock dust bag still the best seller? Because the charcoal industry has followed the same path as the rest of the American consumer landscape: private equity. When a company is owned by a portfolio manager instead of a founder, the goal shifts. They aren't trying to make the best charcoal in the world. They are trying to maximize the quarterly margin. How do you maximize a margin on a commodity? You thin the steel in the grills and you add fillers to the fuel.
It is the same formula every time. If you can replace 15% of expensive hardwood carbon with cheap industrial limestone, the consumer might not notice the taste difference, but the shareholders will definitely notice the profit increase. The charcoal in your grill and the sugar packets at a roadside diner now often sit under the same private equity umbrella. This is why I romanticize the family-owned foundries and the founder-led brands. They aren't answering to a board of directors in a glass tower, they're answering to the person holding the tongs. They care if the ash is too thick. They care if the heat is uneven. The construction tells the truth. The logo tells a story. And the story the big box brands are telling you is that all charcoal is charcoal. That is the lie. The math, the chemistry, and the taste prove otherwise. You are being sold a compromise and told it's a standard. Let's synthesize this. Because if you take nothing else away from this video, I want you to have the smart buyer's checklist. The pattern is this. The industry sells you a general-purpose product because it's easier to market, but professional results require specific tools. Here is your new formula. Rule 1. If you are searing steaks, burgers, chops, scallops, you use premium lump. Fogo,
Jealous Devil, Rockwood. You want that 1400-degree peak. You want the Maillard reaction. You want the roar of the fire and the charred mahogany crust. Rule 2. If you are smoking, brisket, pork shoulder, ribs, you use high-quality, filler-free briquettes. No fossil coal, no limestone. You want the predictability. You want the 12-hour stability. You want to be able to sleep while your meat cooks. Rule 3. If you are just grilling some chicken or veggies for a Tuesday night, either works. But for the love of everything, stop buying the budget bags filled with rock dust. The price difference is a few dollars. The performance difference is a different league of cooking. When you stop buying the filler, you stop paying for the company's waste management. Most people will watch this and go right back to the blue bag because the path of least resistance is engineered into their habits. They'll keep paying for limestone fillers and wondering why their sear is a failure. But the smart buyer doesn't operate on habit. They operate on specifications. You now have the bill of materials. You know exactly what the industry is hiding in that bag. So let's audit the audience. I want you to go to the comments and tell me exactly which corporate brand you're purging from your garage this weekend. Let's see how many of us are actually breaking the loop and stopping the flow of capital to the portfolio managers. Stop burning waste. Start burning carbon. I'll see you at the next audit.